The best way to describe my challenges is, and I don't know if this might be oversharing, is that um, I mean everything we're things are about as good as they can be with us. The world is a mess,
Yeah.
and it's getting better, and it's going to continue to get better. But what keeps happening to me, and like, if it's oversharing, I apologize.
Yeah.
But what
You,
keeps
you,
happening is I'm having very disturbed sleep, and I'm having
mm,
lots of nightmares, like lots of nightmares.
yeah.
Um, some of which, I mean, a lot of them make no sense whatsoever. I don't know what they're related to, but what's happening is it is disturbing my sleep so much that I'm spending most of the day sort of not tired, but anxious.
Mm,
In fact, a couple of times my husband has said, is something wrong? And I'm like, no. But because I'm so anxious, I can't sit down long enough to sketch or draw.
yeah.
I'm doing a little bit, but not a lot. I'm because we have a lot of because we're moving and we've got a lot of work to do to get ready for this move. There's plenty to distract me with busy work and physical work. But whenever I try, I keep saying I'll do a little laundry, or I'll empty the dishwasher, or I'll cook something, or I'll and whenever I try to do anything like that, I can do it and it keeps me busy. But whenever I try to sit down and work or get any actual artwork done, I can't calm down enough to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to, and it's not, uh, I don't know what to call it. It's not really, it's certainly not depression. It's not, and I don't even know if I want to call it anxiety. It's more just, I can't focus. It's almost like I've had, I don't know how to describe it, but and this has been happening for a couple of weeks now, and it makes it really hard for me to get any work done. I can do busy work, I can answer emails, I can, and but when I actually try to do focus on actual honest to God artwork, I can't. And my husband has actually said a couple of times, okay, you need to set aside some time and just paint, because if you don't, you're going to go nuts.
Hmm.
And he's right, but I can't seem to sit down and get any actual work done. I don't know where that's coming from, and I don't. I know I'm watching. I need to stop watching the news so much. I
Yeah.
know that that's not helping matters, and I need to step away from the news, and I need to step away from my phone and stop looking at Facebook so much,
Yeah.
and but yeah, so I don't know what to call it. It's not actual anxiety. It's not. It might even just be a lack of good sleep. I have no idea.
Well, I think
But
it's probably a combination of a bunch of things, but I've had similar periods in my life, and I don't know people who are not creative or don't choose to do creative things on a consistent basis probably haven't experienced this. But I think most artists, most creatives, most writers, most filmmakers would kind of understand where you're coming from because I think to get into a creative space, you have to be a little bit vulnerable, sometimes a lot vulnerable, and
mm-hmm,
it's a fragile state. And I don't mean that artists are fragile, but I mean the state of being that you have to be comfortable with. It's got fragility to it, and it can be massively negatively impacted, even though things in your life are going well.
mm-hmm.
Things in your life are going well comparatively. You know what I mean? They're not going well because nobody's life is good right now.
No.
You know, like there's, I mean, we, you know, hundreds of thousands of people are dead. millions are sick and ill and struggling. There's all kinds of unrest, and there's things, no matter where you are on the political scale, that are unjust and unfair, and from your viewpoint, oppressive, and I think artists are kind of like, I can't remember who said this, but artists are the raw nerve of society. We don't have a lot of protection and insulation from that, because we actively choose to expose ourselves and our emotions and our inner thoughts and feelings about things. And so it makes sense to me that some of the animals that you're painting are not happy and not formal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you are an authentic artist. You're not somebody who's mass producing the same garbage over and over and over again. You're not doing, chasing trends or whatever is going to sell a poster or a shirt. Like, you're making the art that speaks to you. And right now, individuals are all under attack. We are experiencing a global existential crisis of who we are and who we want to be, and how that conflicts, and then there's just a general level of dread, and so all of that is going to feed in. It makes perfect sense to me that you would be struggling with this, and I don't think, I don't know how you haven't passed any judgment verbally to me, but I mean, I hope you're not getting down on yourself about it or anything, because I think it's as normal as anything else. It doesn't make it easy that it's normal, but I hope you're not letting your inner critic kind of beat you up about it.
Yeah, not any more than usual.
Okay.
I have a very I think a lot of I think this is actually true of artists too. I have a very active inner critic, but I think a lot of artists do.
Yeah.
And the one of the things that a friend recently told me, which is actually kind of interesting, he said, you're allowed to take a break. You should, take a break. And what I tried to explain to him is that for me, taking a break is actually doing the artwork, even though that's also the work.
Right.
So for me, my inner critic is saying, you need to empty the dishwasher. You need to do another little laundry. Yeah. You need to alphabetize the books, because you don't deserve to sit down and do artwork. Even though the artwork is the work, it's also
the reward and the relief. And
it's also, and like you said about being vulnerable, as long as I keep busy, I'm one of those stress cleaners. I'm a stress cleaner. I'm also a stress eater, but fortunately, I don't really do that as much anymore since I've been trying to lose weight. So it's all going into stress cleaning now. But when someone tells me to take a break, and they tell me to take a break from artwork, I'm like, yeah, but do what?
Right.
Because that's the fun stuff. So in some ways, that's how do I say this without sounding like it's going to sound like a cliche, but it's a gift to be an artist, but it's also a curse. It's a gift and a curse to have the one thing that you want to do the most is also your work.
Yeah.
But anyway, the more we get down this path, the more I feel like I'm not making much sense. And
I think you're making sense. Yeah, I mean, I think you're hitting on a bunch of different things. Imposter syndrome. That inner critic being really strong. I think they've done studies that most creatives and most professionals at some level, at some point in time, are dealing with imposter syndrome, where you feel like you're faking it or you're not worthy to, do it or whatever. And so I mean, that kind of makes sense that you got the strong inner critic, right? Because that's kind of with that. But then in addition to that, you're talking about, um, it's the duplicity of art is that it's a two-edged sword. It cuts both ways. And because I self-medicate with art, and I don't know whether that's healthy or not, but it works for me. And so I'm just going to say it's healthy. But like, if I'm not producing stuff, I don't feel right. I feel off. I feel, and it's a different situation for me than like, there's a piece of advice that my wife's therapist gave her one time. And he said, stop shoulding yourself.
Oh, wow.
Right. We should ourselves to death. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. It's like, just stop shoulding yourself. It's like, don't beat yourself up for all the stuff, because there is an infinite amount of things that you can find that you should be doing.
That's the truth.
That's a bottomless pit. It is an insatiable thing that will never be satisfied. Like that is a drive that is an endless death march. You're never going to be good enough to do all of the shoulds, right? There's always somebody who's a better husband or better wife or better housekeeper, their studio is cleaner, their artwork is whatever. And if you should yourself, it's usually a comparative thing. It's usually that you feel like if I'm shoulding myself, what I'm actually doing is, I should be different than I am, right? I am who I am. But then if I compare myself to this idealized version of me, or what society feels like I should be, or what I feel like my friends or my family or my coworkers are expecting me to be, it's other than I am. It's something else. And that's where the should comes in, is I'm shaming myself for not being something else, somebody who enjoys doing the dishes, or, somebody like myself. Like I feel very judged, even though my neighbors have never said anything to me. And they've never given me a bad look. There's no reason that I have no evidence of this, but like when I don't have, the snow scraped off my driveway as perfectly as they do, my brain starts saying, you should be a better blah, 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 or whatever. If I go a week longer than I should mowing my lawn, they're not doing that to me. That's me doing that to me. I'm doing it onto them because of what I assume their expectations of their neighbors are. So the whole should thing is really interesting, because it's actually, it's just us coming to grips with who we're not.
God, where does that come from? But that makes sense.
It comes from an interesting, if you want to get a little bit existential, I kind of like, I'm an existentialist, and so I kind of like talking about this, but an existential theory would be that it comes from, if we do not interact with other people as other people. We should, and we should try to do that, but we actually interact with other people as they interact with us. And so it sounds very horrible, because it can be turned to be a very manipulative and horrible thing. But when you encounter someone, your initial reaction is to try to see what they are to you. Like, is this a threat? Is this a potential mate? Is this somebody who could be a friend or an enemy? Can I get something from them? Are they going to try to get something from me? You're not actually thinking about the person, but you're thinking about the potential relationship moving forward. And so we actually view the world through our assumed perceptions of other people, because there's us, our true self. And then there's also the way that my wife sees me, which I don't think is accurate. Right. But there's also the way that my students see me, which I don't think is accurate. I have lived my whole life feeling like everyone I come encounter with, they meet a part of me, and they make all these assumptions that are based on that part and that piece. And it's not that their perception is untrue, but it's not complete. So the number of me's that exist around in the world is as numerous as the number of people that have perceived me or observed me or made a judgment of me or thought of me. And so then when I interact with those people, whether it's a real interaction or whether that interaction is happening in my mind, I'm interacting with them through my projected assumptions of their perception of me.
Oh, wow.
Which is a really complicated way of just saying I'm projecting things that might not be there. Like when I walk outside, my neighbors are perfectly happy, normal people that have never said a mean word to me, and they're very nice, but yet I have decided that they're judging me about my lawn and my driveway.
Oh, okay.
With
Now,
no evidence.
yeah, I get it. I absolutely get it.
Right. And so I decided that, and they have no idea, and they might not be thinking that at all. And yet I beat myself up. I start shooting myself that I should be different or do different or act different or whatever, based on these invented perceptions that may or may not be there. I have no evidence that they are there.
Wow.
So we just build these little traps, these little mazes for ourselves that a lot of those walls aren't real. We put them up. We don't need to navigate this maze the way that we are navigating it, because a lot of the maze doesn't need to be like that. We just decided it did because of our assumptions of what other people think we should be. But the honest truth of the matter is, when my house is a mess or my studio, like right now, just off camera, I'm very self-conscious about the fact that I have like fast food wrappers, from the meal I just ate, that are just sitting on my desk. No one knows that exists.
No one can see them.
I literally cropped it out of frame, and yet it's there in my mind because I should be an adult and I should be cleaner and I should be whatever. And I will clean that up. I just feel like I have to say that now. I don't know why, but I will clean that up.
I absolutely understand.
And yet I'm using that to beat myself up, even though I don't need to, because there's literally not a person on the planet that knew that existed until I just mentioned it.
You just told everybody. So
and now
but
all
I understand.
People watching the stream.
Yeah, whoever's watching. I absolutely understand. One of the things that's funny is, and like for the past year, I've, thank goodness my husband and I get along very well. But I've spent more time with him than I have with anybody else on the entire planet. And there are days and days and days go by that I only talk to one person, and that's him.
Yeah.
But the other day, a lot of times when I feel like I haven't done as much as I should in a day, like you just said, and I'll have a list of things, and I will come downstairs and I'll tell my husband, I'll say, you know what, I was going to do another load of laundry. I was going to do this, but I'm not going to now. And it's like I'm apologizing to him.
Right.
And he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's like, it's okay. It's okay. He says, it's okay, Kath. It's okay. You're allowed to take a break. You're allowed to. And I realize that I'm apologizing to Kim because he's there and he's another person. Yeah. And most of the time, he's fine with it.
I did that exact same thing the other day. My wife and I walked downstairs to our theater room, and I saw a couple jackets and hoodies and stuff that I had left on the ground, and she saw some blankets that she had left out, and I said, "Oh man, this place is a mess," meaning I have left things out, and she said, "I'm sorry," and I was like, "For what? I don't even know what you're talking about." I was looking at my thing. She's like, "Oh, well, I didn't put the blankets away." I was like, "Oh, well, I didn't put my coats away." I was talking about my coats. But yeah, so we always, it's funny. It's funny how we do that. But
yeah. But
yeah. So what do you do with that when it comes to, what are your plans? Because I think taking a break is an option. I also think, there are some other options that might be helpful.
Well, one of the things that I do sometimes, which it does help, and that is why my art books are my friends. I will pull out a few art books, books of other people's work or instruction books, and I'll look through them. And sometimes I will get inspired by what I see. And I realize that, oh, I could do something like that. Maybe I should try that. And then what I do usually is I step away from the ordinary. I step away from my computer, and I also step away from, because I have a drafting table where I keep my computer and my Cintiq tablet. Then I have another drafting table which is full of color pencils and my watercolor palette and brushes and stuff. I don't even go there. I go downstairs to either if it's warm outside, I get to go outside, but I sit at the dining room table or I sit at the coffee table, and I get a sketchbook and I just try to draw things that make me happy. And that's probably what I need to be doing more, and not trying to make a masterpiece. Trying to, because I can't tell you how many times back when I had a full-time graphics job that I would be in a meeting or something and I would start sketching something. And I realized if I could just had a little bit of time
Yeah.
to work on this, I could really do something very cool. And now I've got that time, and I'm not, once again, I'm starting to feel guilty because I'm not doing that. But I need to step away from the kitchen for one thing, because if I see the kitchen, I'll see things that need to be done. Or if I'm anywhere close to where the laundry room is, then I will see things that need to be done.
Right.
I almost feel like I need a safe room or a panic room. I need a panic room where I can go in and nothing will be in there but a sketchbook, a pen, and a table, and that's it. But
I wonder, another thing I've seen, well, two things really, is because I was debilitated by imposter syndrome for a long time, and I still have it, but it's I think everybody does to a certain extent, but it's not a.
I think every grown-up does.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I hate to say this, but if you don't, what's wrong with you? I know.
Right.
If you're super confident and certain then there's another problem, actually.
Yeah, I think probably Dunning-Kruger effect kind of comes into play with that situation, which is like the less you know about something, the more confident you are about it. So as you work into getting proficient at something, you start to realize all the things that you don't know about it, and all that you start to be able. I mean, like I look at my 100 level students, they don't even have the ability to see their gaps. They just don't have the training to even see where they're going wrong. But I look at my 300 and 400 level students, and they're starting to get to the point where they're like, oh, I see it. I don't know how to fix it, but I see that it's there. That's a tough place to be. And then you move past that, and as you start closing that gap between, amateur work and professional work, you start to see more. And in that mastery of that scale set or whatever, you can see more of where you lack, and so you start to develop whatever. But at the beginning, you didn't know how to make a thing, and now you can make a thing, and it doesn't matter to you whether it looks good or not, because you can't see that. You just, all of a sudden, it's like magic. You could, you open up Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop or something, you made something, and all this, wow, look at that. I changed the color of the mountain, and it doesn't matter if it looks terrible. It's something you couldn't do before. And so all of a sudden Dunning-Kruger effect kicks in, and you think that you're at the top of your game, and so it's interesting because different ages of students, I have to approach the class differently. Like my freshmen, it's a lot of me helping them understand, you're not as good as you think you are, and you can get there, but let's walk that back a little bit, and let me show you where you can improve. Whereas my seniors, it's like, okay, it's been a long, hard slog, right? And the world isn't ending. You're fine. You still have some improvement, but you have to understand that you will always have improvement for the rest of your life. Like, you will die before you're done. Like, that's just how this works. And so you need to understand that you've come really far, and you're okay. It's a different conversation at different stages, but I agree. Most adults should have a pretty healthy understanding of where they lack. And if you're 100% confident in everything you do, I feel like you're probably delusional.
Yeah.
But with that, I think when I encounter those thoughts, I've gained the ability, I've trained myself to not just accept the things that my mind tells me. Sometimes our brains lie to us, you know. I mean, if I know objectively that I'm good at something and my brain tells me that I'm terrible at it, that's not true. It doesn't mean I don't have room to improve. It just means that that's imposter syndrome. And so I actually used to be debilitating, and I would freak out, and I'd spin out of control, and I'd stop doing it for a while or whatever. And nowadays I can say, no, there's things that I can improve, but I'm gonna tag and bag this. I'm gonna label this thought as imposter syndrome, and I'm gonna put it off to the side. So I wonder if you could do a similar thing. You see the kitchen, and it is a triggering situation. It's gonna arise thoughts, right? Things will pop up in your mind, but that doesn't make those thoughts equally valid as the other thoughts. And so you can just say, you can acknowledge it. It's kind of one of those mindfulness activities. I don't know if you've read about that, but you just say, yes, that is a thought, and you just let it go by. That's not a useful thought right now. So thank you for being there, and I'm gonna let you pass on through. Much easier said than done, but I think actually being conscious about the attention and energy and emotion that we attribute to thoughts. It's another existential principle that facts exist. They call it facticity. The facts of things don't change, but the value that we choose to give certain facts is up to us. And so the fact of the matter is that there are many things, many chores and things that I could be doing right now. That's a fact. But how much value I ascribe to that fact is up to me. I get to decide. I get to set my own priorities. And if I don't consciously make that decision, then I end up being driven by my assumptions of other people's perception of me. And if I consciously make that decision, which is hard, I'm not I just the other day, my wife and sister-in-law found a video of me at 15, and I was a 3-sport athlete in high school and very fit and very thin and muscular. And now I'm a 40-year-old out of shape guy. And you know what I mean? And my self-perception is that that's bad. But is it really bad? Because I'm not an athlete. I'm not trying to do that. And so the reasons that I feel like my physical appearance should be different are external and not helpful to me. I want to be healthy so that I'm around for a while and that I'm not miserable. And so there's some health concerns that I have, but like, I'm an illustrator. I don't need a 6-pack. I'm not a model. I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not an actor. I don't need to look like I feel like I need to look. And society's perception of that is something that I struggle with all the time. My main goal, I'm trying to make my main goal I just don't want to have to buy new pants. But I
understand that one too.
But for decades, my goal as a middle-aged man is that I wanted to look like a teenager. I wanted to have the glory days of my former self when I was playing football, basketball, and volleyball, and I was working out 3 or 4 hours every day for years and years and years. And I was in my teens, where your metabolism is nuts and you can do whatever you want and eat whatever you want. The fact of the matter is that stage of my life was fun and I enjoyed it, and it's over. I'm in a different stage of life that I'm enjoying just as much or more. I have more fulfilling things in my family and in my artwork and in my job than I did back then. And so, but I've still had to mourn the loss of that expectation. And I still, just like if you lose someone that you love, it's not like you forget about them. It's still there. There are still triggering things that remind you of that. And when I do up my belt in the morning, I'm like, oh, no, there's about 50 pounds that I have now that I didn't used to have. But I get to daily choose, hourly choose sometimes how much value those thoughts have to me in my current state.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, um, yeah, I actually I understand all of that. In general, I feel actually pretty lucky because I'm on a bunch of people I went to high school with. We're all on this one uh, group, and one of the questions people keep asking, we keep asking each other is, if you could go back and be in high school again, would you do it? And a lot of people said, "Oh yeah, that would be fun. I'd love to do that again." I was like, "No way, no way. I'm so much happier now than I was then." So I got to keep reminding myself of that too. But
Yeah.
and yeah, I just need to um, find ways to get around whatever it is. I think what did you call it? The should stop
Shooting
shooting
yourself.
yourself to death. I think I might make a big sign that says just that and put it right up on the wall.
Yep.
I might do that because I think that's very true. I think it's one of the things that's happening, and I think at least part of it is a way of somehow a way of controlling all the chaos that's going on in the world. If I do enough, uh, you know, frenzied cleaning or frenzied organizing or frenzied work that I don't like to do, because somehow if I'm enjoying it too much, then it's probably I shouldn't be doing it. I think I was part of it as I was raised in this Presbyterian, Scots Presbyterian, old time religion
Right.
uh, environment. Was basically, if you're happy, you're not doing it right.
Right.
And I struggle with that all the time. I think if you're
Very.
happy, you're doing something wrong.
It's a very early American Puritan view
Yeah,
of life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Both of my parents were raised that way, and it came down into myself and my sister and my brother, and it's not meant to be uh, cruel, but it's a way of looking at the world that I don't know exactly why it's that way,
Well,
but it's an old time religion kind of
there's some interesting dogmas that arose when early Christianity started to splinter into different sects.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, it comes from a place where there's an argument that I don't believe in, but there's an argument that the body is evil and that the spirit is righteous. Um, and so if you are experiencing pleasure, then you must be giving into the flesh, and you're bad. You're a bad person.
Yeah.
Um,
You should feel grateful to have oxygen. And if you feel
right,
joy, then you're probably doing something wrong.
right,
Oh,
right. And in reality, my view of God, because I continue to be religious to this day, but uh, it's a nuanced view. It's just like I look at him as a loving parent, and
hmm.
I look at my kids and I want them to be happy. I want them to have joy, but not all happiness and not all joy, because some of it isn't very good for them. Like my 2-year-old right now would eat nothing but cookies and ice cream if I let him. Another chocolate one, Dad? Chocolate one? He would just do that all the time. Like I could literally feed him, nothing but candy bars, and he would be happy as a pig in mud. But because I love him, I'm not going to do that. So, but that doesn't mean that I don't want him to experience those things. So I don't tell him that chocolate is bad. I just tell him that you need everything in balance, And so we're going to eat a little bit of green things and a little bit of brown things and some red things and some round things and some square things. And there's this balance. And so I think that's where this is my whole argument with everything always. And you probably know where I'm going with this, but there's no nuance in today's thinking. Right. And so if we look at things as like joy is evil, it means you're bad, you're doing something wrong, and pain is good, it means that you're suffering, so you must be doing something right. That is such a black and white
Hmm.
situation. It's such a horrible way to look at the world. But But it doesn't mean the opposite, which is I do whatever makes me feel good. If it feels good, I do it. That's
Right.
a horrible way to be a member of a family or a member of a society. It's a very selfish outlook on life. But there's a balance there where if it makes you happy, you should do it as you consider the happiness of other people around you. If in your empathy you can be happy and it doesn't cost anyone else their happiness, then do that, right? And I think there's long-term happiness and short-term happiness, and there's different behaviors and actions that I think we can see. Like I could do heroin right now and it'd probably make me super happy, but I don't know if I'd really like the long-term effects of that.
No.
Right. So, I mean, I have, unfortunately, I have high school buddies that got hooked on meth, and I would choose my non-drug life to their life right now, but they were way happier chemically than I was in high school because they were chemically enhanced in that way, and so I would agree, but it is an interesting history to see, and you see different people do different things over the years. I mean, there are groups of monks that would wear like they'd make coats out of horse hair, and they would wear it inside out so that it was very uncomfortable, so that they were constantly in a state of discomfort and suffering because they felt that would make them more righteous, and they would deny the flesh more. And I'm like, that's not what the creator of our bodies wanted for us. He didn't want us to be in constant suffering. That's just, it's so for me, it's just like, think of a good parent, and that's kind of how I think about God, is like he wants the best for us, but that doesn't mean that everything we want is the best for us. So there's that weird gray area balance that you have to figure out. But
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. I'm sorry that you have to live with that guilt. That's so annoying.
Yeah, there are worse things.
Yeah,
But
sure.
anyway, but
Yeah.
I'm working on it. But
Well, one thing I know for sure is that nothing stays the same.
that's the truth.
Yeah. So whatever state you're in now will change just by the nature of change being a constant.
Yeah, I keep, it's funny. I don't know if it's because we're about to move, but I keep thinking about where I was 5 years ago, where I was 10 years ago, and so much has happened. Um, uh, 10 years ago is when I first started taking my first classes at SCAD.
Oh yeah.
That's when I think about that now. Um, yeah, my first class at SCAD was in 2011, and feels weird to think that was 10 years ago. But
Yeah.
and
And as you're thinking of that, why is that coming up? Is that a positive thought, a negative thought? Is
oh,
it?
it's I keep thinking about. I think what it is part of it is, and this is something you will understand, but it continues. It gets is because I'm older than you, and
Mhm.
as you get older, time starts to go by faster,
Mhm.
and it's weird. Um, and this is going to sound very strange, but this we're about to on the East Coast, we're about to experience something which I don't love, but I don't hate it as much as I used to, and that is we get the 17-year cicadas.
Oh yeah.
They're everywhere, and basically they're just everywhere. And you just have bugs everywhere, and it doesn't freak me out now as much as it used to. But I was just thinking about that today, and I was thinking the first time I experienced it, I was um, in sixth grade. The second time I experienced it, I was I had gone through high school and college, and I was married, and Brian, my husband, and I had both bought our first condo.
Oh wow.
The next time I experienced it, I was had been working at the graphics department where I worked at for 20 years. My husband and I were in the house that we're living in now. And just life was that much different. And now we're going to experience it again. And I was just thinking how the difference between the first time I experienced it and the second time, vastly different.
Mm-hmm.
And between the second time and the third time, different, but not as much. And now, I mean, we lived in this house when it happened last time. I was it's not that much different. And then I was thinking, where will I be when it happens next time?
Yeah.
I'll be in my 80s. Weird.
Yeah.
The very idea. As you get older, when you think of 20 years ago, you remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Where it's just a strange feeling. And I think it's because my husband just retired. My husband is retired, and I'm starting to realize that what's going to happen in the next 20 years, because 20 years ago seems like yesterday, is the next 20 years going to go by quite as quickly. And I don't even know where I'm going with this. It's just a strange feeling. And I keep thinking about, and just in 2015 is when I graduated from SCAD. That's also, and I was diagnosed with cancer. And that was only, just over 5 years ago. And so much has happened since then. And I was just thinking, what's going to happen in the next 5 years and how much will have changed in the next 5 years? I don't even know what I'm trying to say. And I feel bad for all the people watching right now, but who else, who all is watching? I think the reason is because things have gone by so quickly. And I feel it's really true when they say that, life goes by so fast. And as you get older, it seems to go even faster and faster. It's really weird. It's like being on some sort of a ride, and it gets faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, because I'm looking back and I was like, wow, was that really 10 years ago? And it's strange. It's a strange feeling. But the good thing about that is like you said, the bad things, it's going to be over before we know it. Things are going to get better. Things are already getting better. And I can't believe that 9/11 was almost 20 years ago.
Right.
That still blows my mind. But
I was living in a different country 20 years ago.
Oh, really? Where were you?
I was in Scotland. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
My husband and I both have Scottish heritage. I want to visit Scotland someday. I hope we do.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
I'm one of the few people on the planet that actually likes the sound of bagpipes.
Yeah.
Actually, I really like the sound of bagpipes.
Go to Edinburgh. Edinburgh has a lot of street pipers that they just walk around the Royal Mile and
like that.
Yeah. So it's fun. But I know what you mean. I mean, I'm younger than you are, but I can look at my 11-year-old, and I explained to her many times, honey, this seems like a big deal to you right now, but like when you get older, this day that you've had will just be one of many days. You just haven't had enough days yet. It's like, I remember, like nowadays, if I got a ticket for $50, I would be annoyed, but I got a ticket when I was in college for $50. And because I was very poor in college, it was a life altering.
Oh, yeah.
It was an amount of money that decimated me.
I believe you. I remember being a poor college student. I do.
Yeah. But the difference is that I have more money now. I've got more income. And so that same unit of measurement it has less of an impact. And so I think that's how time works. That I'm 40 and I'm 4 times as old as my daughter, and so I've had four times as much experience and 4 times as many bad days and good days and years and whatever. And I tell my students this too. I'm like, I've been doing this for twice as long as you've been alive, and so, I have a different perspective on this. I have way more time behind me than you guys do. And so it has less of an impact on me than it has on you, because they think, oh, I've got a semester. That's tons of time. And I'm thinking 3 months, guys, is not a ton of time. You got to hustle.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember when I was a kid and when the last day of school came around and it was summertime, the summer lasted forever.
Yeah.
I mean, summer was a long, long time.
Right.
And now I feel like Christmas comes around. Like, I feel like every time I turn around, it's Christmas again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right after summer starts, I feel like, why is it snowing all of a sudden? What is going on? But yeah. Well, I hope things turn around for you.
It will. It will. I'm certain that it will. I need to write it out and stop watching the news so much so that I can get a decent night's sleep without. I hope that's what the reason for the nightmares. If it's not, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, could you do a little media fast, and just kind of like cut out just for just try 3 days where you don't get on social media, you don't watch the news, and you just do whatever you do. Don't shed yourself, but just I'm just gonna avoid those things for a few days.
I think that's a good idea, and actually, Brian and I have talked about doing that, like over the weekend, stay away from all the news. And he doesn't do Facebook or Instagram, so that wouldn't be a difficult task for him.
Yeah.
For me, getting off Instagram is hard because whenever people comment on my work, I always want to thank them. I feel like it's so, but that doesn't mean I have to scroll through Facebook all day long. And
what I found helpful with Instagram is I turned off all my notifications, so I don't get notifications from Instagram. And so that way I choose to engage with Instagram rather than Instagram pulling me in. And I only engage with Instagram if I have a purpose. So I only open it up if I'm going to go check my comments and reply to people, or if I'm going to post something, or if I intend to spend a few minutes scrolling through artwork. But
right.
I try really hard not to do it randomly, because I feel like, well, I know this is true. I don't know why I started with that with feel like. That those apps have been specifically designed to addict you and to draw you in so that you're not making conscious decisions about your behavior. And so
that's true.
If I become very intentional about my behavior, I can overcome that.
Yeah, I did turn off notifications. And I need to turn off notifications. I did on Facebook, both Facebook and Instagram a long time ago. I need to turn it off on Words with Friends too. I play Words with Friends, and I get notices all the time.
Yeah.
And what I also need to do is, how do I say this? When people ask me to play, I always say yes. I need to find a way to say no, because otherwise it's a real time suck. And I don't need time sucks right now. So,
another thing that the last time I was feeling like you are, not the last time, but a big change in my life. I did a sticker stint. I did that because I invented that whole system because I needed some quick wins in the artwork. You know what I mean?
You and I talked about this, yes.
Yeah, I wonder if you could find your version of that, where it's like, you know what, I'm not going to work on a big project. I'm not going to work on a long painting. Like, what can I feel some success in? That's creative and fast. And can I get through 6 of those, or whatever.
I've got an idea for that, actually.
That'll be interesting. I'm curious to hear about that next week.
I'll see what I can do. I may start that actually even tonight. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I've got an idea for that.
Cool.
Anyway.
Well, there's a new WandaVision out.
Yes.
And you've got some pizza to make, I imagine.
Actually, you're going to laugh at this. This is the first Friday night I haven't made pizza in a very long time because we're expecting snow,
Oh,
which is they're expecting a big snowfall on Sunday and Monday. So I actually ordered some food instead of going to the grocery store. I normally go to the grocery store on Monday, and Monday the weather's going to be bad. So I ordered some food, and so we're going to switch things around because we want to eat the salads that I ordered while they're still nice and fresh. So we're going to
yeah.
have salads for the next few days, and I'll be making pizza on Sunday and Monday instead.
Cool.
Which it's kind of weird when you have a calendar for your dinners, but
I think
it makes life easier when you know what you're going to be making for dinner every night.
I've spent the
Anyway,
last 3 decades of my life eating pretty much the same thing for about 10 years, and then I switch it up. So I think yours
really,
is probably more normal. Yeah. I went through, in my 20s, I ate almost exclusively microwave burritos. And just,
not a bad thing to eat.
it's
Of
not
course, I'm a
good.
vegetarian, so I would be
Yeah.
eating the big ones. But
But yeah,
no, I can think. I lived in college. I lived on ramen noodles and Kraft macaroni and cheese.
yep.
I still can't eat ramen noodles
Yeah.
because I got so sick of ramen noodles. But so I understand. But no, Brian is very tolerant of my vegetarianism. So we have pasta, we have eggs, we have pizza, and if Brian wants a steak, he buys it for himself and he cooks it. And we have baked potatoes, and we pretty much go through the same 5 or 6 things every week. And if we really want to go crazy, we'll order Greek food
Mm.
and pick it up. So in general, though, pasta and pizza are our go-tos, I think.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Mm.
Well, Kathy, where can we find your stuff?
PendragonArtStudios.com or KathyMooreWilson.com. And I have a Facebook page. If you put on Pendragon Art Studios, it'll show up. And I'm on Instagram under Kathy Moore Wilson. I sort of go back and forth between the two.
Cool. And you can find my stuff at KoryKerr.com, and KoryKerr.com/online will take you to where I am on all the social media channels and everything. And if you haven't, if you are somebody who uses Twitch and you haven't subscribed to me on Twitch, go jump over to Twitch, which is just twitch.tv/KoryKerr.
Try that.
Over there. So anyway, It's good talking to Kathy. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.
All right.